Welcome to the Conscious Radio Network's YouTube channel. Become enlightened, have fun, and tell all your friends and family to share with everyone they know. You can find us on Facebook and stay up to date on our Facebook group, or find us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Our podcasts can be found on Libsyn, iHeart, Spotify, Google Podcast, and more. Most of all, remember to go to our official website at consciousradionetwork.com for podcasts, hosts, future shows, and scheduling. We also want to welcome our international audience. Don't stop now. Enjoy the community. Subscribe today.
This is the Conscious Radio Network.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you might be on the spaceship we call Earth. Welcome to Conscious Radio Network's weekly podcast series, The Seance. I'm your host, Reverend Dr. Paul Mekas. If this is your first time tuning in, please click subscribe, like, share, comment, and don't forget to follow wherever you listen to your podcasts. Exploring the life and mind of an intuitive. She is a visionary starseed, natural-born clairvoyant, healer, and mediumistic abilities, along with having many gifts, including remote viewing, remote touching, hearing conversations, seeing and communicating with spirit, as well as a very detailed visions and dreams with profound messages. She can physically and telepathically teleport to other places and dimensions. She's also a healer and has been used to heal people and animals, performing spiritual readings for clients throughout the United States and the UK. She has also worked as a forensic visionary, helping people and law enforcement find missing and lost loved ones. Let's welcome back to the seance, Gloria Hass. Welcome back.
Thank you, Paul. It's good to be
welcome.
back.
You're welcome. Starting to feel like home, isn't it? A little safe space, turn on, burn some incense and some candles. A seance.
Then we have the spirits and the dragon energy and the unicorn energy all join in along with the 8 angelic realm.
Yes. I should start putting like animated angels coming in and out of the background there. Every now and then, very random and stuff like that, since I got the cosmos as the background space of the video. So, and some dragons.
Yes.
So, Gloria, let's go back in time a little bit, not a little bit, but whenever.
Yesterday.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
When you could start intuitively knowing what was going to happen to people or what was going on at large around the world.
What was interesting is I remember having dreams about things, and I was in grade school when one of the girls from school said that her brother had run away. Mm. And I had seen him. My parents were driving in the car, and I was looking out the back window. And I did that often because they would smoke cigarettes, and I didn't like the smell of the cigarettes. And it was winter time, and so I would look out the back window because that air hadn't been affected with that much cigarette smoke. Yeah. And I remember seeing the girl's brother walking down the street. And my dad and mom didn't see anyone. And I saw him walking, and he looked right at me. And his eyes were sunken in. He had dark and purple. And I yelled at, "That was," and I said his name. Huh. And my parents called the family, and I told them what I saw. My dad said where we were. And I had seen him. And I said, "He'll be home soon. He should be coming home within the next couple of weeks." And a week and a half later, he was home, but he didn't look anything like I had seen. But he had cleaned up his act before he went home. So I got in trouble for distressing the family, about his appearance, but he had been into drugs and did clean up his act.
Yeah. Huh. So you saw him in a moment where the drugs took effect and it affected his complexion. Those were the dark rings around the eyes and stuff like that. And I'm sure at the moment you're like, didn't really make much of it until you're like, or did you
Oh no,
pick up certain details and stuff like that as
oh
far as
yeah,
like the
I picked up.
conditions?
Well, I grew up in Quartzsville, California, which was the drop-off place for drugs between Los Angeles and San Francisco. I
Yeah.
lived down the street where they had the drop-off and pickup, so I knew what was going on. I had classmates that were, their older brothers and sisters were experimenting with drugs. We were seeing the films on, in class, in health class. So enough to scare you, try and get away from it
Mm-hmm.
and or stay away from it. But he was the same age as my brother, so I didn't get exposed for another year or two into that where my actual friends were
Yeah.
experimenting with drugs. So I knew and picked up all the details and what was going on. And I remember his sister came to me and said, "How can you see that in such detail?" And he won't say anything, but he did come up to me and said, "How did you know?"
Yeah. Huh. And you were how old at the time?
I was in grade school. I was probably another 2 years. I was probably in about fifth or sixth grade.
Okay. Oh, yeah, and I mean it's been known, with all these case studies and stuff like that, especially children still living within that early stage brainwave state of theta wave. Was it theta or alpha? I forget
I
anymore.
don't know.
Theta brainwave state, where our senses are much heightened, and as we get older, we kind of, I wouldn't say grow up, lack of a better word, we grow out of it, or we become kind of complacent, and we're taught to not recognize it. Oh, that's your imagination, and stuff like that. Were you told that as you were growing up, or was it received well with your parents and the community?
My parents in the community never received anything I did well when it came to that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So no, I was told that I had an overactive imagination and I needed to get over it. So I started keeping everything to myself, but I could still see things that were going on, and and I could, I would sense it, and then sometimes I would see in my natural eye, like I did with the girl's brother. I would
Mhm.
see it like out there as what was going on.
Yeah. As far as like some of the as you got older, how describe how maybe some accounts and some of the work that you have done as you got older, whether it was just stuff you may have journaled or stuff that maybe readings that you did, as your abilities, I wouldn't say as you've progressed, did you see your abilities change? Did they get did you notice any changes in your abilities in your mediumistic or your intuitive work?
I remember experimenting with astral projection, and actually, when I was 13, my family, we went to Indiana to visit my dad's mother, and his older brother and his children were there. It was a family reunion. And I remember sitting in my grandmother's kitchen on the floor. She had a very small house. So my dad had gotten a Ouija board, which
Mm.
freaked his mother out completely. He just said, "Oh, it's a game. Nothing is going on." I learned from my cousins how to channel. Yes, because his older brother was allowing this for his kids, and they were very staunch Methodist,
Yeah. Oh,
attending.
wow.
Yes. But
Oh,
he said, "Oh, he believed like my dad, it's harmless, let them experiment with it. If you say no, they're going to draw more into it." So we were sitting on the floor and doing the Ouija board, and we were even collectively looking at the thing that moved, the
mhm.
pointer. And we were able to we were telling it where to move, where to go to, and then it flew off the board because it was receiving so much energy. I think there's
Yeah.
like four or five. There was me and my three cousins, three girls, no, two girls. There was three of us sitting around that. And then I remember my one cousin said, "Did you know I can channel Kennedy?" I said, "What? Who? What Kennedy?" "John F. Kennedy. I can channel him." I said, "Well, how do you do it?" And then she just started writing everything about his assassination down.
Whoa.
Yeah, I'm just like, what do I do to get started? She goes, it started with me just writing, John F. Kennedy, John F. Kennedy, John F. Kennedy, and
Yeah.
chant it and see if his spirit comes over you. Well, I mean, it's making my hair itch right now. I can just feel it standing on edge. Like I've been inviting him in. If he wants to show up, that's okay.
That would be interesting.
But so it started with that, and then they said, "Yeah, you have to." And then we started seeing some spirits over the Ouija board. My dad's mother saw it. She got out the yardstick and whacked it on the board. And she yelled at my dad, "Get this trash out of my house. I don't want witchcraft in here." And we're seeing strange stuff going on with the girls in the kitchen. Of course, we were like, ruin our fun because it was boring there. There was a park nearby, but we weren't allowed to go there without a chaperone. And my
Yeah.
brother didn't want to go, and he was
Yeah.
older, and neither did my older cousin. She didn't want to go. So we went and stood outside and got bored and kicked the grass and looked at the flowers and started picking them off because we were frustrated. Then we had to come in and sit down on the couch and be quiet. But
Yeah.
that was my next one. As I was 13, I think. I was 13 years old. So that was only a few years later.
Huh. Wow. Now, when people, I don't know, say normal people, there's no such thing as normal people. Normally, when
Mhm.
people hear the word intuitive or psychic or medium, the first thing that comes to their mind is, oh, you can get me my lottery numbers, or you can tell me what's going to happen tomorrow, or you can tell me this and tell me that. So they're those seem to be the people that are more reluctant of actually going to seek assistance or advice from a medium, a psychic, or an intuitive. How can someone tell if someone is a scammer and makes stuff up?
They don't actually, you used to be able to tell because there were canned answers that everyone gave you. It was almost like they were reading a script. But recently, I had someone who is a psychic medium start coming and telling me a few things that were right. This was, I think, back, at the maybe February or
Mhm.
something. I don't remember. And then he pushed the button a little too much. He started telling me that my gifts were fading. And at the time, what I was feeling was I was feeling that my spirit was fading, but it was actually taking a break and breathing and resting. And then I thought it was fading. And then with him mentally manipulating, I burst into tears because I thought, well, maybe he's true because I hadn't heard of it before.
Yeah.
And then he said, "I need to give you a soul transfusion. I need to touch you. And for $60, I can slow down the fading of your spiritual gifts." Hello.
Mm.
There's no such thing as what he talked about.
Yeah.
That's a scam right there. But he could mix in enough truth with stuff that was made up. So it's hard to tell because then you can find the truth, but then other things, may be happening in the future. And then he even told me that I forget what else he said. It was just right in my head and probably not for me to repeat. But the next day he said, "You shouldn't be so depressed and upset." I'm like, and he was trying to talk me into being upset and being a sheep, being
Mm.
blindly following. I said, "I'm not depressed. I didn't say I was." And he left me alone after that because he knew that I knew the truth about him.
Yeah.
But I recently had a client. Well, one client said I was, spot on and everything. And he was very vague in what he told me, and everything just started running like a movie. And I sent him all these messages. Well, he referred me And this is where things get sticky. This is where a very good intuitive can be bad mouthed because someone's asking questions, but they don't want to receive what is being said. They only want to hear what they want to hear. So you can pick psychics and intuitives, we can pick up on that very easily. Okay, what do they want to see? What do they want to hear? So then they go ahead and tell them. But I tell the truth. I had one woman burst into tears and said, "You didn't tell me what I wanted to hear." And I let a client go. I
Yeah.
told her, "You need to make up your own mind," because it got to the point where my horoscope is telling me that. And she wouldn't make a decision on her own because she didn't want to be wrong. She had the need to be right. She wanted a sure bet in life. And then she comes back, "The only thing that you got right about the reading was," and what I told her was laid out was healthy. She needed to learn healthy boundaries because I could feel it, the chaotic energy. And she even admitted she had 3 readings, and the first 2 were spot on. So why would the third one not be right? And I told her, "You keep asking the same questions repeatedly. You're not going to have your answer now. You need to step out and take this journey. You're not going to have a sure bet that, oh, follow the yellow brick road or follow the blue line, or take the green rail and your answer will appear magically." That's
Yeah.
not how it works. So fake people who are fake may say those things, or the intuitive may actually say that, "I see this part where you're going to be, where things are going to happen." We don't know the exact time that it's going to happen. And it can be delayed,
Yeah.
and till the person themselves builds up what they need to learn, builds up themselves, learns what they need to learn in lessons. And if they don't, what they want may never happen because they didn't follow the path that they should have, because that's what a medium is seeing, is the path that they should take in order for this to be fulfilled. So then
Yeah.
they can come back and say, "That didn't happen. They're a fake." So does that answer your question between both
Yeah.
sides?
Yeah. Yeah. And two, I've also noticed, just share some of my a little of my knowledge and experience also as a medium, is someone can tell if someone's a true medium or psychic. I'd say more medium. Psychic medium that's a better word right there. Psychic and medium right there. Boom. Is you shouldn't have to give the medium too much information, or anything at all. I mean, I've done readings where I don't know nothing about the person. I've never seen them before. All I know is their first name. That's it. And I can give them all kinds of information. And suddenly they walk away from the table going, "Oh, whoa, how did you know that?" I was like, "Well, spirit came in. They gave me these symbols. They gave me this information, and I relayed it to you. I offered you, and sometimes you ask, and that's the thing too, is like you give the reading, they ask some questions later about your reading or any more information that you might be able to give them. But other than that, it's like I would, and tell me if you agree, that if somebody looking for somebody to get a reading from is, be careful if the person, the medium or psychic or intuitive, is asking way too many questions at the beginning.
Yes, if they want your birth date, they want to know where you
Yeah,
were born. There's identity right there. They're going to look at your horoscope and
yeah,
see everything. I tell people, "What questions do you have?" Because all I feel, and see is a jumble
mm,
with them. So I just ask them, "Tell me what you want to know." And then as things happen, then it's like a movie going. And
yeah,
especially if the person is very closed off, and they're very hard to detect things from. For me, this is the way it is. And once that the questions go and they feel that they're relaxed enough, then I can get other information. There have been times I've been sitting next to someone in church and I'll turn to them not knowing who they are, and I'll just start giving them information.
Mm.
So with me, it happens both ways.
Yeah. 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 And especially, and also it depends on the modality. It depends on that particular medium or psychic. Sometimes we need specific tools to
Hmm.
be able to open the channel, so to speak, pierce away the veil a little bit for, as a divination tool, which birth date, your name sometimes too is, if I'm doing a group, it's good to hear. I'll ask the person, give me your birth name. Say your full birth name to me, or your first name, first and last name twice. That carries energy.
Yes.
And when you pick that up, you get that pierces the veil and it opens up that doorway. So,
Yeah, but I never ask them where they, it's one asks me a question and I do everything by email and put it in letter format because that's easier for me
mhm.
to relax, to be able to relax with my head injury. Things lock up faster.
Yeah.
And if somebody's like, well, what do you hear? What do you hear? What do you hear? We're running against the time and things just lock up. So this way I can take a day or two, I can relax, I can meditate. And I've been waking up with dreams about, my clients, and I'll put it down into, a reading for them, because that does happen at times at a later date. There's information coming in at different times. And I've sat on a panel of psychics, and I know you have too, where some of them write down all this information. I'm like, I didn't see that. I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Where are they coming from? But then there were also things that I did see that coincided with other things. But when somebody sits for 10 to 15 minutes and I didn't see that, but I would see something else, then I start questioning, but then if they've had time, maybe I may have only had 2 days. If they had 1 or 2 weeks ahead of time and they worked on it, that's a different story. They may have actually seen everything, to fit in with that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, not to put you on the spot, but how fairly accurate are you, or have you been with the work and readings you've
I've had
done?
people tell me that I'm fairly accurate. I know that at times I've been wrong for them, but I've picked up energy about other things that were happening with a family member or a friend that they knew. It might not be directed for them, but
Yeah.
it was, for someone else. And I know of one instance a year ago that I was wrong, or, but someone wanted me to know about when someone's life would end, and I said, I don't want to know about that. And I heard 2 months, and 2 months later, my dog had died. Yes. So I heard 2 months,
Mm.
and then this person made a miraculous health comeback. So it's, if people want to know when they're going to die, I don't tell them. It's like,
I
that's,
I know. There's people are like, well, I should know. I was like, well, I don't know. If I ever had gotten that information to relay to somebody, I'd be afraid to do that. I mean,
and start living their life as if they're going to die
yeah, it's like,
at a
ah,
certain time. And then they can mentally tell themselves, oh, at age 35, I'm going to die. And then they die only because they heard someone tell them that. And
mhm,
it's like, if you don't tell a cancer patient they have cancer, they will live their life as if they're not dying.
yep,
And they will live a healthier life than if you tell them that they're going to die, because then they start looking at, feeling all the different, pains and aches, and their diminished immune system because of their thoughts. So it
yeah.
makes ball of wax.
The mind, is a profound thing when it comes to how it can pretty much dictate what your life is going to be like.
Exactly.
And especially your health. I had a guest on not too long ago that said that, there was a case. She had a case that this guy went to the doctor. He wasn't feeling well. And the doctor said they diagnosed him with some kind of cancer, like pancreatic cancer or something. And the doctors gave him 4 months. Well, guess what happened at 4 months? He died in 4 months. But then when they did the autopsy, they found out he didn't have cancer. He thought he had cancer. The thought of having cancer killed him.
Yep.
So,
I had a girlfriend who was definitely diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. She was told that she would only have a year to live.
mhm,
And I said, don't believe the doctors. She said, what? I said, don't believe the doctors. And she lived longer than the average norm that people who have pancreatic cancer die at. Two and a
wow.
half years later, she did pass.
Yeah. Wow.
Yep. And she didn't do the chemotherapy, and because she didn't feel good after that and she felt like it was diminishing, she changed her diet and her outlook, and she started forgiving people.
Mm,
And she extended her life by a couple of years.
wow. That is awesome. And sometimes too, the things that somebody does, the work that they do, it's almost like the higher self knows the actual time, but consciously, it's kind of like there's a veil between that. Be like, "Huh, I ain't telling you," but it opens you up. It becomes a muse for you to do those last great things on the planet for the better of all of humanity. So you have a YouTube channel.
No, I have
Um,
a Rumble channel.
or yeah, that's right, Rumble channel.
I left
So
YouTube.
yeah, I do too. I have a Rumble channel. We both have a Rumble channel, people. You got to go check it out. Now, you give some spiritual readings and prophetic words. Why? Explain that. Well, we already got the where, but explain how, where, why that you're doing these readings.
That's part of why I'm here, is to help, people to, raise their way of life, raise their vision of themselves, and make this planet better than with all that negative, chaotic energy that's going on. And
Mhm.
that was what I heard for the month of April. And then this then I remember the second week of April, it was like, put your life in order. And 3 days later, a friend of mine wrote on her time thing, put your life in order. And she hadn't even seen it. And I said, well, that was the prophetic word that I gave. And another month, it was like sift and shift. And someone wrote to me and said, this is what my life is like. I can't believe it. You're just like right on. And it helps people to be able, with everything that's being thrown at us, to give them a beacon
Yeah,
to latch onto, to help them focus on what they need to do, instead of feeling, people feel like they're being tossed and thrown about. And we are, by so much media stuff that's going on. But if we go ahead and refocus and keep grounded in who we are, then we can actually have a better way of thinking and think for ourselves, instead of blindly following someone else. We think that they might, but then, stuff that some of these people are saying, I'm like, really? Okay, but it's all for their gain, to get numbers on their
yeah,
videos. But, and then people are starting to believe all this stuff. But I do it to help for the betterment of mankind and the planet and animals.
yeah, yeah. A better conscious awareness rather
Right.
than some yeah, someplace we'd rather not be. Definitely.
Exactly. I want people to have a better life.
Yeah, yeah.
The
Happy.
sooner the better.
Yeah,
Do your best to have a better life. Build on that. Here are the tools to do that. Here are the, I didn't have that option, in my young, tender years. I grew up where girls were more restrained, they were oppressed, guys could do whatever they want, and we were stuck in social norms. But
Yeah.
it's like, okay, girls, you don't go the other way and do whatever you want. It's like, let's bring this together
Yeah.
and do our best to be civilized towards one another. Let's get back to being civilized with each other, being united, watch out for our neighbors and the animals and help instead of taking those videos. Oh, look at that poor animal being blah, 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 blah. And then
Yeah. Yeah.
that's the depraved state of the world. But if everyone would not watch those videos, block those people, let those views go down, and start doing something that is better, more constructive to, have a more fulfilled life. Somebody had said to me, if everyone would treat each other like the golden rule, do unto others as you want to be treated,
Hmm.
how much of a better world would we have? And that's the message I want to give out to help people to be able
Yeah.
to come into that.
Yeah. We all have really got to start trying to become stewards of loving kindness and
Yes.
fellowship and service of all of humanity.
Yes.
Absolutely. Now, people can find your Rumble channel and all of your material and work on your Linktree account. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And that would be at Gloria Hass Books if you go to the Linktree. But all that will be in the show notes. And if you're watching, that is scrolling on the bottom of the screen. So before we wrap up the show, what would you like to offer as a takeaway for our audience today?
Be all that you can be, better yourself every day. Don't fall into the trap of just because somebody is charging $400 that they're being a good psychic, or if somebody's only paying $5 or they're doing it for free, they must be bad. Go into it, have someone refer them, a referral. Not everybody you're not going to like everything you hear, but why not be all that you can be through personal development books, by acting, random acts of kindness towards someone else. Stop making fun of people because of their physical size
Mm-hmm.
and a disability they may have. That could be you. And how
Yeah.
would you feel if you were treated that way? So let's become a happier place. Let's become happier people on this planet and be open to receiving the change for the better that we need to do in order for that to happen.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. And when you said that could be you sometime, that opened up a memory that I had this morning. I had that thought this morning. I don't know why. I was about ready to get on an elevator, and it's amazing that I can remember that. But I was getting on an elevator, and that very thought came into my mind that and I think probably for the reasons that I'm having these weird hip issues, I envisioned worst case scenario. I envisioned a worst case scenario. And then that thought came through going, I see so many people making fun of people, physically handicapped people, whether they're in a wheelchair or a walker or a cane or anything. And I said, or I thought, and I heard that don't do that. Don't do that, because that can be you or will be you someday. And
Mm-hmm.
you're going to wish that somebody treated you with love and kindness and respect, especially during times when you need it.
Like someone holding a door open for someone with a cane and they have a bag just because they have a cane. It's almost like people are invisible.
Yeah.
And even people in wheelchairs, it's almost like they're invisible. And I've seen some people with scooters, the guy goes, "Hey, why are they running me over?" I said, "You walked right in front of them.
Yeah.
You didn't see
Yeah.
them. They were right there."
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like
Exactly.
people with disabilities become invisible.
I know. It's a shame.
And it is.
Yeah. Yeah. those are some prayers and candles that we are going to be burning after this show to change that thought globally. Definitely. Yeah. Gloria, namaste. Thank you, my friend, and blessings. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your gifts. And thank you for helping many people, so many people out there, determine what their path is, or helping them, steer them in a direction and giving them some divine advice out there that spirit is either helping them or, stuff out there. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, and blessings to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everybody, for watching Conscious Radio Network's The Seance, and we will see you next week.